Well, I'm full Jewish, but my father is a Sephardic Jew and my mother is an Ashkenazi Jew. I'm half Moroccan and I'm also half Russian. In terms of like my Ashkenazi Jewish roots, it just has never really felt so important to like really delve into. As with my Moroccan family, I see them far more often and I've spoken to them about my culture.
I'm hella Mexican. I'm Aztec, I guess. My mother's family is also like by the coast, so we do have a little of African descent. My uncles, like, they look Cuban. These two parents, one's from Mexico City, the other's from a state called Michoacan. We all do speak Spanish, but when it comes to music, dialects, everything you do, completely different.
I am Salvadorian American. Growing up as a kid, interestingly enough, I never knew that I was Salvadorian. I always thought that I was American. I had this friend, and they asked me if I was Mexican. And I looked at him kind of weird, and I told him, no, I'm American. Yeah, you're American, yes, but where do your parents come from? So they left me kind of in doubt, and what ended up happening is that I went to my parents and asked them what my nationality was, and they told me that I was Salvadorian. And that's where we visit every year over the summer. Interestingly enough, I never made the connection or thought that I was Salvadorian until they actually told me.
I'll go first, since I'm oldest. I guess if you want to be, you know, technical. Yeah, if you want to be more technical about it, yeah, we're African American, but in slang terms, I guess we're black. My grandmother, she was like, you know, you're Egyptian, right? I was like, yeah. Sure. But it actually turned out to be that way. It's cool being like both parts, like African American and Egyptian.
I consider my ethnicity to be Turkish, Mexican, and German, but I'm really connected with my Turkish and Mexican roots. My dad used to live in Turkey when he was in high school. He's very connected to his roots there, and he really wants me to be connected to my Turkish roots as well. It's something very important to him.
My ethnicity is Mexican American. My family is like half and half. My grandpa is more on the Spanish side, and my mom's family is probably more indigenous because they did not move from the spot that they are now, which is where the Aztecs were.
Not yet. Not yet. Not yet. Not yet. I wanted to make a film about youth and ethnic identity development because I've always been interested in how people develop their identity. Since I'm mixed, I've always had it in the forefront of my mind to find a balance between both the ethnicities that I belong to. Like, wore a chai around my neck and had this full head of of dreadlocks. And I've always talked about ethnicity and race, and have found that some people aren't as comfortable talking about it. And then through high school, I found this huge population of people that were willing to talk about it. In this film, I've put together a collaboration of 6 interviews with 7 youth, and they all tell a very unique story about their development into who they are and how they represent themselves. In so many ways, these youth are different, and then in so many ways, they're the same.
Ethnicity, race, it's made up of so many elements. It's hard to say. I mean, how can you categorize a person?
Race is what you're perceived as, and identity is what you perceive yourself as.
I would consider race colors, because when I see people, I see race.
It's your pride. It's like who you are. It defines you.
I define ethnicity and race as like your roots.
Race is something more stereotypical based on your skin color.
I define ethnicity as your culture and where you're from, and how you really celebrate those things.
I like being unique from everybody else. Like being twins, that's different from being just born by yourself. I try to separate myself from the crowd, sort of like fashion trends. You dress like everybody else. No, I dress like myself.
I'm not the kind of person who's ever been able to kind of identify as one thing. I'm already like, I'm bi-coastal, I'm biracial, I'm bisexual. The need to individualize myself was never really a choice. It was kind of just something that I stumbled upon.
I think it would be a shame for me to kind of brush my culture off to the side. My culture means way too much for me to ever let go of it.
I do treasure my nationality, but if somebody calls me Mexican, I take it as a type of ignorance. There's other countries like Guatemala, El Salvador, Bolivia. There's more than just Mexico.
I don't like to follow a specific stereotype of how we are. So I think I'm more individual.
The group of friends I have, we're all very culturally diverse. Sometimes it's hard for me to even fit into my family because they are the typical Chicanos. It's hard because being part of this group of friends, you're open to so many different views.
It took me a while for me to identify as Turkish. When I was younger, I always wanted to be 100% Mexican because that's what all my friends were. So I really wanted to, have that respect from them, I guess, to be considered as full Mexican. But now I see the beauty of being mixed, and I think that is really special about me.
When race gets involved, that's how
Yeah, that's where we have all the separation.
Yeah,
and stuff.
well, separation.
We shouldn't always try to separate ourselves. We should just become just together, no matter what you are.
I think I always kind of had this weird complex of feeling out of the loop with my family because they were all adopted, they all were people of color, they all had this thing that binded them together, and I didn't really have that. I have this memory of Sayla turning to me and she was like, "Mattia, you're Moroccan, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." "So you're African?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm African." And she goes, "So you're basically black." From such a young age, I wanted to identify so much as North African because I always felt like in my family that was a way of being more included in my cousins' lives.
Sometimes I feel more pressured to be more Americanized, especially because my family came from El Salvador, so we don't know certain customs that Americans follow. For example, recently I had prom. I had to experiment and then learn what it was to be American.
If people ask me how I identify myself or who I am, I would say Mexican. I really identify more to my Mexican side, and that's valuable.
My parents put a lot of input on both of those cultures, and so I see beauty in both cultures in so many different ways that I really love.
I don't come from a house where we celebrate Shabbos every Friday night. I never really learned Moroccan history. I've never been to Morocco. I feel sometimes like my identity is a little bit like an experiment, maybe.
You guys ready?
Yeah. We look at the camera, right? Focal.
Yeah.
Focal. Okay.
Can you see this, Ray?
Yes.
You guys see it? So you guys can both see this?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see all of it. Rolling. There we go. It's good for me. Good. Yeah, they both gotta be rolling. We're rolling.
Was that
Let's try it again.
Okay.